Okay, so let's delve into another Age of Mythology player and his history through the Genesis tournament. GDM Faraon. He's gonna be starting against Janitor Jensen. Jensen. Who knows what it's going to be, but since that's the Janitor, I'm gonna be assuming that it's gonna be Jensen probably. So let's reveal it all. We're gonna be this time having Faraon with the Frenchies, of course. That is not surprising at all. With the British against them, so it's gonna be at least making for a bit of a change as far as the civilizations. So what is there for the spawn currently? So we should be of course expecting that Faraon will be probably the first, not kind of like the first, the one to set the pace of the game. You can see 7 on food, yeah, then the gold, that's gonna be a fairly standard build. Nothing surprising here at all. As you can see, stone is gonna be a bit far away. We'll be having reasonably safe wood, but that's not entirely something that he necessarily needs. He'll be much happier if he was actually having some safer berries, even though it has to be said that these are definitely not as terrible as what was having Hagrid in the previous match. These ones are kind of fine and really close to the TC, so shouldn't be a problem. Gold is... kind of depends. Maybe a bit worrisome is that he's actually having both at this point berries and also the gold at the same time, so if he's gonna be losing control of that map position, he might be having some trouble. But on the other hand, it could also be meaning that it could be a bit easier to defend if he just drops a tower in between, or he's gonna be keeping some units there. So it does have, of course, pluses, minuses based on how the game is gonna be proceeding. More foot to the left, same as with the hunt apparently. So yeah, he's gonna be definitely skewed towards the left side here. So that's where we're gonna be expecting him for quite some time. As you can see, even secondary gold is gonna be unfortunately on the same spot. And it's usually what you don't want, certainly. As obviously gold is gonna be quite a very crucial part of your gameplay overall. With the second hunt being pretty far away, wide open in the field, so I don't expect there's gonna be anything that actually Faraon or the Jensen. Sorry, I'm switched around on the colors for some reason. Okay, so I was just right now talking about Janitor. But nonetheless, everything that I said is pretty much okay, just the name switched around, so sorry. But yeah, well, the hunt far away, so nothing really too great he can be expecting from that. Unless, of course, Faraon would be letting him be, which is gonna be quite a bit unlikely. But unless it's gonna be slightly, of course, changing kind of like the dynamic of what I was mentioning as far as the defense is, because as of English, he's gonna be wanting to go for a classic combination of archers and spears, and therefore it's gonna be easier for him to defend against the horse lords with spearmen camped here. So from that point of view, it actually might be for this matchup an advantage for Janitor, that he's gonna be having things right next to each other. Whereas, well, on the other side of the map, the gold is a bit forward as well for Faraon, and you can see he's gonna be already using right now the School of Cavalry as one of the defensive parts, which, yeah, again, we've talked about it plenty times. I'm still thinking it's a bit risky, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was having the same development as temple building in Age of Mythology, where for years, and even a decade plus, people used to be using temple as effectively even protecting towers forward in their base. But in the past few years, people figured that it's an easy way to destroy it, therefore, because it's a big building, and therefore plenty early units can be surrounding it and trying to destroy that out of any kind of reach of TC or anything like that. And therefore, they learned to be placing it in a much safer positions and basically just abandon some kind of risky spots like that. So I'm really thinking this might be a similar case with potentially something like the stables here, as long as landmark victories are going to be a thing. So here again, just like epic game from weekend between Symptom and Viper. It was exactly kind of like the clue on how that could have happened. And definitely I've also read a very interesting moment and point to that game that I haven't even mentioned too much when we were streaming it. We mentioned the fact that Symptom was incredibly close to landmark victory, but that he could have been going about it differently. Instead of going for the TC, he could have been trying to destroy the School of Cavalry. It would have been easier first, he would have been blocking horses from that, and therefore he will be then even just easier and better ready for assault on the TC. So maybe just should have been doing and going about that way differently. But still, absolutely excellent game. If you somehow haven't seen that Symptom versus Viper, it was definitely one of the best games of the tournament, and I can just kind of imagine that Viper was getting a bit worried. He doesn't really panic in his games, he tends to be kind of like a calm player who basically just, even if he's in a terrible situation, He does few things and small things bit by bit until it somehow works. That's kind of like his, basically, how he works and how he wins even impossible games. But I'm thinking that he had to be thrown in a sweat because it was a best of one. And, I mean, like, he's not invincible. He knows he can be losing game here and there. And when it's not any kind of more games that you can be saving yourself, you never know what kind of funny thing can happen to you. So yeah, that was a good game. Definitely interesting one to watch. We have it on the past broadcast from Saturday, if you are interested. Okay, so therefore we're gonna be 8 partner going apparently for the hunt far away from the base by Janitor, which is a very interesting decision. I'm gonna liking that, but at the same time it's very risky. As you can see, he's gonna be all losing 2 villages because of the charge. I think that against a Frankie I probably wouldn't risk it, because they advance quick. As you can see, advancing Janitor quite a bit later than that, and he's gonna be having Archerinos, no preparation currently as far as some Spiros. That's also a bit of a problem that we can see here, but at least he has the berries, and as we said, right now this really might be a bit of a bonus on the defense, but seriously, he needs to be getting right now some spearmen as soon as possible, because otherwise the knights are just going to utterly destroy him with their power. On the other side of the map, we're gonna be getting blacksmith very early. Surprisingly early. Just gonna talked about the upgrades earlier, and it seems like that really the ups are not too important in the early stages. Like any of them, be it economical upgrades and be it military upgrades. Seems like both kinda low impact. Oh well, that's a lot of knights already. That is a serious number of knights here. As we at least gonna be right now having some opportunity maybe. Oh, he didn't charge properly, right? Yeah, I don't think he did. So he missed that extra bonus damage. Nonetheless, he's gonna be getting some good kills anyway. You can see 3 villages demolished. Right now a charge, so it's gonna be a 4th one. And while the Archerinos can be trying to help, yeah, well, they are only effectively lightly armed. And they are not gonna be breaching really too much the armor of the knight, which is very ahistorical. Especially British longbowmen, they were... No, exactly because they were having the longbows, and therefore they were having very good penetration power. And therefore even the early cuirasses weren't entirely too great against that. The early ones definitely not. The later ones sure, because they were exactly adapted to be better counter in the archers. But here the early knights... Yeah, I'm thinking that they should be much more vulnerable actually to archers, but I guess maybe it's for the design purposes that way. But on the other hand... Yeah, who has kind of watched the games and played the game kind of knows that the balance is a bit all over the place, so... Who knows? But nonetheless, just kind of like a bit of a historical moment, I guess, here. There is a reason why in the 100 Years' War, in the first parts, English longbows were winning, even against heavy cavalry. And it wasn't only because they were killing the horses, but simply because they were even taking down the armored horsemen. Sure, plenty of the hits probably were kind of on the way that you actually didn't get hit into the cuirass itself, but rather somewhere into the neck or whatever, and simply the hail of arrows, no, it meant that, yeah, you're gonna be hitting something, right? And that's kind of the point. But still, you can be finding plenty of interesting videos on the internet on the effectiveness of arrows, and you're actually gonna be seeing that even the really good cuirasses are having a potential to be penetrated by actually well prepared arrows and under actually decent power behind them. And of course the English longbowmen definitely did have that. Because actually working with the English longbow is very hard. And at this point I don't exactly remember the weight, but you are just talking about tens and dozens of kilograms of actually weight that you need to be effectively pulling to pull the string and actually release the arrow as a longbowman. So it really is damn hard, and like a standard person is gonna be having significant trouble with that. Actually make it work. Just kinda funny to imagine how actually the villages even back then in English had to be looking at. Had to be like one Arnold Schwarzenegger right next to the other. Because all of them were actually supposed to be training with bows, right? Like, it was a bit of a thing simply. There's some kind of basic preparation. So you just have to be imagining that every single person in England could be shooting a bow. Like, Jesus Christ, they had to be ripped. That probably was the most ripped nation in the world at that point. But well, at any rate, we're gonna be of course right now looking at still a serious problem in the fact that we really do not have a single preparation for the spearman here, unfortunately, for Janitor. So yeah, I'm not liking that too much. You can see Faraon is gonna be trying to get the hunt with apparently not the survival techniques yet. Thinking he could be going for it. It's not entirely too expensive upgrade, especially since he has double stables, then I'm thinking he can be going for it already. But so far you can tell that Faraon is certainly controlling what is going on all around, and he's doing a pretty good job at that. And effectively it's gonna be the case as long as Janitor doesn't drop the barracks. Until then he cannot be effectively affording to go outside, because as soon as you'll be caught somewhere in the open by such a group of knights, it's just gonna be completely demolished. And it doesn't matter if he's gonna be trying to drop some caltrops, or palings rather. Caltrops are kind of like the spikes through ground, whereas like metal spikes that actually horses then wedge into their hoofs, and of course that's incapacitating them instantly. The poor beasts, but yeah, well, the spikes into the ground. And it's kind of effective. I'll be actually liking if finally the spikes in the games were working as they were supposed to be working, because the spikes are not supposed to be some kind of like extra damage because it's a long pike, as it effectively works in strategy games, where also pikemen are having the bonuses against horses. I mean, like, sure, it's nice, you're having a long pike, but the most important part was to actually, even in the first place, break the charges, because even though what you see in the movies is kinda cool, yeah, well, horses are not stupid animals. They're not gonna be running against pointy sticks, they're just gonna stop. They're just not gonna do that, and that's the whole point of these defenses, that you simply won't be able to force the horse to go there, and therefore cavalry is useless, right? So I'll be liking if actually some mechanism could be done with that, but we're gonna be having at least a camp healing the archers, it's nice. As we do have apparently archer defense already for Faraon from the blacksmith, otherwise he's also having the attack upgraded. On the other side we obviously don't have anything. Maybe he could be trying to get an attacking upgrade, but here I kinda talked earlier what is needed. And even a new town center from Faraon. You can see he doesn't want to be underestimating anything. Of course, doesn't want to be making a mistake and going out in the first round if he can somewhat prevent that. It's actually kind of quite a bit off base. You usually don't do that. Usually you're gonna be having actually that somewhere close to your base and protecting, for example, the base gold. But I think that he can be very well affording that, considering that his opponent is basically just camped in his base and not even having a chance to go anywhere at all. So I can agree with what he's so far doing. You can see confirmation on the attacks that we have seen. Nothing new here so far, which obviously means we are not missing any kind of building anywhere. And that's actually quite nicely and neatly hidden. Mill. It's gonna be pretty much the same on the left side for Faraon, but he has the bonus as the Frenchie. And of course on the hunt, did we get something? We did actually get wheelbarrow, or are getting wheelbarrow, so that's at least some kind of small bonus onto the economy. With the English not having any upgrade whatsoever so far as we can tell, and he's gonna be also needing new lumber camp as he's getting quite a bit inefficient. Or maybe at least get the wheelbarrow as the basic. As the basic up to help in those case of inefficiencies. First gold upgrade for Faraon. On the woodline, nothing so far. As you can see, it's gonna be... Ahaha! They are the archers. So I'm thinking he's just basically really expecting that the pikeman or the spearman should be coming. We unfortunately are seeing that Janitor Jensen is at this point kind of like, unfortunately, waiting, playing passively. And waiting for what Faraon is going to be doing. But that's not entirely too much of a great idea, of course, especially against the French, but overall, because you're just kind of waiting for Faraon to somehow throw the game. And it really does not seem like that he's aiming to do that. He's gonna be even advancing into already Castle Age. That's gonna be Janitor Jensen, who's gonna be probably dropping the White Tower. Yeah, that's making sense for the defense. There is at least something coming up. With Faraon, he's not gonna be too far behind. You can see the resources are almost there. So I guess no problemo. Now trying to drop the spikes. Should be probably trying to maybe even wall these parts of the map slightly, so that exactly a Faraon cannot be raiding around so like freely. Wow, he's really rushing all the villages. Look at all the villagerinos. He can of course right now even use it to get the hardened spearmen up. That's at least something that he can be using it for. But still, that barracks absolutely needs to be done. And finished even earlier. Should have been rather finished earlier. With not too many upgrades here. Otherwise, School of Cavalry, sure. Gonna be right now having the stable. But yeah, he's definitely just going for the right side. He's even gonna be getting Royal Institute here. In a bit of a weird spot slightly, but I guess he's just gonna be trusting himself enough. It will be a also decent plan anyway. And it frankly seems like that it really might be. So, Castle Age in. That means... Can he still getting lucky Janitor to the top side that he's not gonna be discovered on the berries. So let's switch into Faraon to have a look. Nah, he has no idea about that. Oh, but right now he's gonna be seeing that. Can see right now he's on a bit of an elevated spot, I'm thinking. That's why he saw a bit further through the trees. So that might be actually still creeping onto Janitor a bit. Maybe at least slightly. But well, at any rate. Yeah, therefore in the next age, gonna be getting some Royal Knights upgrade into Veterans. And are we getting something from the Blacksmith? Currently we are getting, apparently, second attack done, and we're also gonna be getting second defense against the archers. No, he's gonna be fine with all the gold, so should be a kind of problem to find an extra. Siege Workshop even. Well, like, considering that we don't have exactly that many archers yet, then he doesn't have infantry to potentially make the siege weapons that could be useful for him. So I guess that the siege weapons, for example, especially Mangonel, is gonna be rather useful. I guess that's gonna be the important part for him as he's jumping on the hunt, He's jumping through a hunt on the gold miners, which is nice. And that might be, yeah, I was just looking at it, it might be a nasty, actually, pincer and sandwich. No, but it's gonna be pretty nasty anyway. Because even though he's right now setting up triple healing, yeah, he's not gonna be able to out-heal the lance and sword in the chest. That's probably not gonna be working out too well. And while there is quite a bit of a damage coming out from the TC, yeah, I don't think it actually Faraon is gonna be minding too much. With even military academy completed, therefore faster creation of units, and the knights are just way too tanky. Currently 6 defense against the bows, or against the arrows rather, and therefore army effectively demolished and still having plenty of horses here. Even though could have been just easily waiting. I mean, like, the first attack was okay, but then he probably could have been pulling off, waiting for the siege weapons from his siege workshop, and I think he could have been having a bit easier game, but obviously he knows that he can be affording this. As destroying the whole army from Janitor Jensen is going to be also kinda good trade for him, as he's much better off. Currently Faraon 77 villages, as on the other side 24 villages for Janitor, so we definitely do know that he's not gonna be able to replace that in any kind of reasonable way. As you have right now the second TC, you can see some idlerinos. Double Blacksmith. I mean, like, sometimes it's actually handy because the upgrades are taking incredibly long. You can see right now minute for most of them. Thinking maybe not, maybe all even. But yeah, it's a very long time. And we're gonna be at least seeing a trebuchet. That's legitimately, I'm thinking, the very first time we are seeing a trebuchet actually in the game, in the tournament so far. All of them have been resolved without that. It's gonna be at least having a spring out right now already, but fortunately not gonna be too much of an assistance, even though it would have been pretty cool against especially the trap. As he going back onto the release, and yeah, this is looking at this point like how long is Janitor gonna be wanting to see his villages suffer before he's gonna be conceding to the French. And of course appreciate their dominance on the battlefield here. Can see of course right now the White Tower, still plenty of hit points, but maybe he's gonna be getting even a new trebuchet. You can see some new horses right now already here. Yep, we are done. Okay, so good job to Faraon. It was a decently controlled first round of the tournament. And we're gonna be heading into statistics and then the second. There was a weird actually shadow of the flying stone actually somewhere here. visible really far away for some reason. Let's put on the spoiler and score for Faraon, at least at the end here. And what do we see here? Probably nothing too surprising. You can see quite a nice curve of the villages. When you got the second DC, then you got even further. That was like the only spot here where he apparently forgot to click a new villager, or maybe just didn't have resources and rather invested into army at that point. But yeah, you can see that even some early ratings already just kind of set up Janitor Jensen into a bit of a struggle, and he never kind of could reach above, I don't know, 40 villages, approximately 38 maybe. And of course, when the opponent is gonna be reaching effectively double, then it can be having only one end, and that is, for example, that. And that is, of course, because you're missing the spearman. Already Faraon having tons of resources, as he was pretty sure that the game was done, and therefore he didn't even bother clicking new units. No, well, unfortunately with archers playing against Frankish knights, you need to be having some extra defenses, and good luck with that as well. And of course some moral problems on the other side, and overall just stupid decision making of the generals. Otherwise the knighties, they still do have quite a good reason why to win in such an engagement. The speed of the horses is still something that can really help. And if plenty of them cross, or enough of them cross over the battlefield, yeah, the archers are screwed. You can see, of course, on the Echo it's gonna be really high differences, about 8,000 with, what, 14, like 14 to 15,000 resources, 14 and a half, I guess. That's just like way too much, of course, for that not to matter in any kind of way. And of course, that allowed all the ups, 14 upgrades. You can see only 2 upgrades for Janitor. Didn't entirely, unfortunately, get too many. But nonetheless, good effort, and hoping that it was at least fun to be taking part in the tournament. So hopefully gonna be maybe seeing him in some other ones, and possibly even maybe advancing further once he gets a bit more experience in the game. Obviously Faraon is having an advantage because he's a long-term Age of Mythology player, so he kind of knows what to expect and how the game should be flowing, so that's obviously a massive advantage. And if you have the years beyond and below your belt with that, it's always gonna be meaning better chances even in the early stages of new games, or maybe especially in the early stages of new games. Before everything gets figured out, people are gonna be coming in with experience and stuff like that. GG.